Okay, I'm rocking the Pumpkins shirt because they did the theme song. Alright, let's do it. There were a couple bumps in the road, but overall I thought Bound for Glory 4 was a very good pay-per-view. I think the live crowd definitely helped with the atmosphere. That had to have been one of the biggest crowds TNA's ever had, and they were hot all night long. That really helped give this show the big-time feel that I didn't get from Impact last week, you know what I mean? And I think a lot of that had to do with them being out of the Impact zone at the bigger venue. That's one of the reasons I'm excited about them filming in Las Vegas in a couple of weeks, because I think the Impact zone is starting to become a limiting concept in that way. Anyway, let's get those bumps in the road out of the way first. The mixed tag match. Complete waste of time. This was an Impact match. It had no business being on a Bound for Glory card. This was nothing but a lame excuse to get the beautiful people on the show, and that pointless backstage segment of them complaining about blue M&Ms just proved that. Thankfully, Kip James didn't do that much. The right team won, the right person got pinned, and that's about all I can say about it. The finish of the Knockouts title match. This was a real head scratcher for me. I didn't understand the booking of Roxy at all. They spend a month building her up with those rough cut segments, and then they job her out on the Go Home show, and then they job her out again here. So, what was the point of all those video packages? To get people to want Roxy to win the title and then not deliver? I mean, this did not make any sense to me. I mean, that crowd clearly wanted Roxy to win that match. She definitely had more face heat than Taylor did. So the rough cuts did their job, but there was no follow-up. This really frustrated me because Roxy is kind of like the Matt Hardy of the Knockouts division, and by that I mean that she seems to always be able to get over despite the crappy way she's often booked and despite the stupid situations that the writers put her in. I mean, they can bury her, they can make her look weak, but the fans always seem to want to get behind her, which is why it bothers me so much when stuff like this happens. And that was not a bad match. I mean, it was good while it lasted, but it was way too short. I mean, they should have made the mixed tag a dark match and then given that extra time to this one. And again, the finish just really confused me. Good effort, but I just didn't like how it turned out. Roxy really should have gone over here. Now, I'm going to hold off on bashing this thing too much until I see what they do with her on Impact this Thursday, because they spent all this time building her up as this quote-unquote hardcore wrestler, and then the hardcore thing never even came into play in the match. So maybe this feud isn't over yet. Maybe they're going to go hardcore in a rematch at Turning Point or something. I don't know. I hope so. So I'm going to wait and see where they go with this on Impact this Thursday. Next up, the X Division title match. Now, I've read a couple reviews from people kind of criticizing this one. Honestly, I didn't think it was that bad. I mean, it definitely felt more like an old school style of match than an X Division contest, and no way did it live up to the Senshi Chris Sabin title match from Bound for Glory a couple years ago, but it was a solid bout. I mean, both guys really worked hard, minus that one rest hold that should not have been in there. I was really impressed with Creed. Sheik Abdul-Bashir, I think the jury's still out on him, but I was satisfied with this one. And the finish was a real surprise to me, too, because when they brought out that Iraqi war vet to introduce Creed, I said to myself, well, hell, they just completely telegraphed Creed going over here. And then when he lost, I was shocked. That was a big surprise for me. I mean that in a good way. But now let's talk about the great stuff about this pay-per-view. The Steel Asylum match. Anybody who criticizes this thing for being a generic spot fest can kiss my ass. This thing was incredible from start to finish, just like the last one. Tons of crazy spots here. I like the way it was booked at the end with it coming down to Jay Lethal and Sanjay Dutt. Pretty much how I figured it would go down. Nice to get some closure on that feud. Jay Lethal gets the title shot, which is good news to me. His character's in a much better place now that he's away from that whole Sanjay Val mess. And it looks like they're toying with the idea of elevating him lately, so hopefully that'll happen. Maybe he'll move on to that feud with Booker T now. Monsters Ball. Holy shit. I couldn't believe that Bump Abyss took. He got chokeslammed off the stage through a flaming table. When they broke out that lighter fluid and Johnny Devine set that thing on fire, I was like, no way, they're not really going to do this. But they did, and add that one to the fucking highlight reel, man. Abyss has got balls of steel for going through with that. And Hernandez, too. He got put through a table covered in thumbtacks. He didn't even have a shirt on. This is the kind of carnage you never see with the WWE anymore. And it's that kind of effort that you get from a wrestling company that doesn't market strictly to little kids. Because there's no handcuffs, you know? Then, the triple threat match, AJ Christian and Booker T. This was phenomenal. Those guys blew the roof off the place. AJ's moonsault to the floor was crazy. I was surprised to see Booker T go over here. Did not expect that. With the way with the way the storyline's been going, I thought for sure it would have been Christian or AJ. But I don't know. Maybe that's not the end of this one. Jeff Jarrett, Kurt Angle. Another surprising finish here. I thought Angle probably should have gone over, but I'm not going to take away anything from the match. Terrific work in this one. Jeff Jarrett didn't have any ring rust that I could see, and that's pretty impressive after a 2-year absence. And I love that they shut up all the smart marks who are saying, well, it's Vince Russo booking, so Foley's going to turn heel on Jarrett. Well, that didn't happen. So quit your whining. And then the main event. When Joe did that missile drop kick off the balcony onto Sting, landing on the concrete steps, I jumped out of my seat so high I almost hit the ceiling. Samoa Joe is insane. There are plenty of cruiserweights who wouldn't take a bump like that, and that's a nearly 300-pound man. Jesus Christ. Look, the match was great. Both guys brought it. And let's talk about the significance of this, okay? Joe pretty much dissected Sting for 20 minutes straight. We heard Joe's going to kill you chants for the first time since the first Impact after Victory Road. So Joe had the match won. Everybody knew it. So Joe gets validated as a monster, and Sting ends up looking like an even bigger hypocrite than he looked like before. Sting talks a lot of crap about respect, but he doesn't practice what he preaches because he was the first one to go for that baseball bat. I mean, Joe might have been borderline violent, but he hadn't broken any official rules up to that point. So they really added a darker shade of gray to Sting's ambiguousness here. And you might not like the Kevin Nash thing, but it did make sense from the way they set it up. And this new versus old feud is just getting started. I mean, there's a lot of things that could happen next. Sting might feud with AJ Styles now. I hope that happens. Or he could have a blow-off match with Jeff Jarrett, which I'm sure people would probably complain about. But come on, I think we all know that Sting is not going to have that belt for very long. I mean, the guy doesn't work house shows, and TNA is not going to have a long-term world champion who won't work house shows. So you might not like how it happened, but they just turned to the next chapter in this War for Respect storyline. Sting's going to have a lot of explaining to do. Joe's going to be out for revenge. I'm excited to see what happens next. I enjoyed this pay-per-view. Sorry if you disagree. Talk to you later.